I still can't believe that I'm a mother of two daughters. I still think of myself as this young teenager, maybe in my 20s, and I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't really have this like strong desire to be a mom when I was little or when I was growing up. And I actually held off on having our first for quite some time. I think we were married for a few years before we even started trying. Um, but now that I'm a mother, honestly, you know, I can't imagine my life any other way because my daughters mean everything to me. Family means everything to me. And being a mom is, it's a hard job, but it is the most rewarding job. But with all that said, motherhood isn't exactly what I envisioned it to be. When I was a child, I used to think it was easy to be a mom. You just make breakfast for your kids. I actually didn't even know what exactly the role of a mother was. My mom was amazing, and I guess you don't really know what goes into it because food shows up on the table, toothpaste shows up in the bathroom, and it just seems so easy. Then when I was a teen, I still didn't understand it. I just thought, my mom was there to drive me around to where I needed to be, to get me to all the activities. As a single adult, my mom was already retired, and I didn't really understand, I still didn't really understand, how challenging it was to be a mother and to worry so much about your children, even if they're out of the house, even if when they're sleeping at night. And I say that because when I had my first, I remember even just the fear of, checking on Harper's breathing in the middle of the night, worrying that, she was alive and that she would wake up the next day. So there's these crazy fears that come along with motherhood, that you don't realize when you're growing up. There's so much involved with being a mom, not just taking care of your kids and day-to-day activities, but just worrying about their health and their well-being and making sure that you're raising independent, strong children. And I say that because I want my girls to grow up and not that I don't want them to not need me, because of course I want them to need me, but I want them to be independent and be able to make good decisions with their own brain and have the ability to say no when they really mean no. And, I speak about raising strong girls so often because especially in today's day and age, it's very important to raise strong and confident girls. And I want my girls to know that, that they can speak, they have to speak up, that they shouldn't be scared to speak up. And as a mother, this is, something we have to practice with them every single day. I have to honor their boundaries. I have to respect when my daughters say no or when they talk back, because sometimes that's just them telling me how they feel and that they are brave enough to voice their opinion. And, sometimes it's not good. And I get upset when they talk back. However, I want them to be able to use their voice. I want them to be able to speak up and not be afraid to say no, because I say to them, no is a full sentence. They do not have to explain themselves. No means no. So I teach them that. So I think the biggest part about motherhood is really being able to raise girls or boys who are very confident with themselves, independent, and that they are that they respect themselves. I think that's the most important thing. And there's so many little ways that we can do that as parents, and we don't even realize it. And I think I mentioned that already, was just listening and being present, honoring what they are saying. And also, I think as a parent, and this is just in my opinion, I think it's so important to get them involved in so many like sports. And I think for Harper, for example, being part of a team activity or a team sport like soccer helps her to create these relationships and bonds with other young females. And I think that's so important for them to be in team sports and to try different types of sports. And we've always, as parents, been so supportive of them trying different types of sports because, we want them to stay active. We also prioritize our health. We want our kids to know that they should be prioritizing them. So as a parent, you don't realize like what we do is so important because our kids see that. And they always say, kids will do what they see, not what they hear. So my husband and I always think, we need to show them through action. So my girls see that I prioritize my health through working out every day. I used to have guilt about it. And I say, you know what, if I don't prioritize myself and my health, then my girls will feel that, because maybe I'll be impatient, I'll be more agitated. So I think that's important. So yes, motherhood is, there's so many things about being a mother that that I actually never realized when I was growing up. And I think there's a few things I wrote, and I want to mention that, you'll never ever be ready. And I think there's this notion that you'll be ready to be a mom. And honestly, I don't think you ever will be, because, every day is different. We learn from our kids. I'm still continuing. They've taught me so much as a mother, but you will just never, ever be fully ready to be a parent, because, there's just so much that goes into raising little humans. Babies are expensive, and no one ever told me that. I never realized how expensive it was to have kids. And now I'm so grateful for my mom for all the things that she got us and all the sports that she put us into, because yes, babies are very expensive. And sleep deprivation is real. I also did not know that when I had a baby. I thought, it's fun. They sleep all the time, but they actually don't. And then when they're sleeping, they expect you to sleep, and you actually don't nap, because, someone has to do the dishes, somebody has to clean the house. And so no one tells you that the sleep deprivation really exists. And even as they get older, they still wake up so early. And maybe that will change when they're teenagers and they start sleeping in late. But right now I'm in the thick of it still, even though they're older and they're not newborns, there's still some lack of sleep. So even when we go out at night, we know that we're waking up at 7 a.m. with the girls. The other thing that I think as a mom that I'm still trying to embrace is that we're often very late for appointments, parties, and I hate being late. Like, I actually really, really hate being late. So I try so hard not to be late. But when you have 2 kids or 1 kid or little people depending on you, that you're likely going to be late. And that's just the reality. And in trying to I guess you can plan ahead, and we try our best. We try to wake up earlier. We try to pack lunches before the night before. We try to get things organized. But needless to say, you're often quite late when you become a mom. And I think, having kids, it changes your life. But I think in the way where it changes your perspective on life, and the way you view things is just different. You can't do these last minute trips or spontaneous getaways like you used to. You have to think about these little humans, and you got to feed them, and you got to make sure that they are getting proper sleep, or you need a babysitter. I mean, there's so many things to think about, but it changes your perspective, because life without them wouldn't be the same, and you start to live and appreciate simple things in life. That's from what I think anyway. And I'll use the example of the gym. So I worked out before having kids, often in the gym for hours. It was great. You did whenever you wanted. I had babies, and it changed. I was now squeezing in workouts in my family room, sometimes with the kids, sometimes without. They weren't always intense. They weren't always perfect, but I still did it. And why? Because working out for me went from being aesthetically driven to now being about longevity and being able to live this long, healthy life, because I have 2 kids who will rely on me, and then I want to see get married, and I want to see grow up. So it just shifts your perspective on life. Also travel, travel is so amazing without kids. You could do whatever you want, but it doesn't make it bad with kids. Travel is just different with kids, but it's amazing to see your kids experience a different country, a different culture, and seeing it through their eyes is honestly, it's you can't describe it in words, because the magic you see in their eyes when they are experiencing something fun when you're traveling in a different country is pretty magical. So it is a big responsibility to have someone accountable to you, but it's such a rewarding journey to experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. I actually now wish I had started having kids earlier so I could be more young to keep up with them, because really it is about keeping up with our kids, because they are growing fast, and they say, the days are long, but the years really are short. And that is it for today. That was just kind of me letting out my thoughts about motherhood. Thanks so much for listening. Yours truly, Trisha.